Hey Jeff, season one, we're here. We are here in Vegas filming it live for the show. The NFL is back, and we will be with you all season long. Hey, Rookies Beat Bookies is up on X, Instagram, and TikTok, and we've been putting some shorts content later on from Vegas with our one free pick for the week. And Jeff and I will be going head to head on straight up bets. We're going to be offering that to you as well. Check us out at rookiesbeatbookies.com. Website will be up. As a reminder, we don't Thursday games because we have day jobs. So this is our side hustle. But we do our analysis each week, and we will be free and we will provide our free picks the day before the game. So you'll get those Saturdays or on Sundays if it's a Monday game. And then we're offering some a UL membership for us. It's going to be $75. Just email us and we'll get back to you how to do that. And we'll be providing 3 to 5 picks per Jeff and I for the remainder of the season. So if you're interested in that, check it out. Jeff, over to you, man. How are you looking for season 2?
Well, there's some pretty good games for the first week. Most everything obviously is still based on last year's performance. So trying to factor in changes in personnel and coaching, see how the first couple of weeks work. But I think there's some good value in some of these games.
Yeah, what'd you learn from the Thursday night game with the Lions upsetting the Chiefs and the number going 41? It was 21-20, so the number was 54 and a half. It went to 41, and then the Lions got the upset on the road. What are you thinking there? What stands out?
Well, the first thing that stands out is that Kelsey is a key to the Kansas City Chiefs' hopeful run to another Super Bowl. They don't have the dynamic receivers, even with Mahomes at QB. So he's super important. And the second thing is I see a lot of value in some of these unders, at least early in the season. And this was one of those games that showed that exact trend.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. So I think as we look at the other games this week, some of the key injuries might have an impact as well as Kelsey had an impact on the game last week. The other thing that I got thinking about is does this say more about the Chiefs or does this say more about the Lions this win?
I like the Lions. I think they're improved from last year, so I definitely think they've got a good shot at the playoffs in the NFC. But I think this said a little more about the Chiefs. Not only did they have Kelsey out, they still have the contract issue with their defensive lineman Jones, and I think there's gonna be a little bit of a hangover. So I'm not thinking they'll start super fast this year. Hopefully they can kick it in pretty soon so they can look to hold down that home field advantage again.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's exactly right, Jeff. I mean, I think I will say this. I think there is a bias against the Lions. So you kind of said it when we broke down the NFC. You kind of like them to win the division. Kind of solidifies it for me. I think the Bears and the Packers have an outside shot, but the Lions were able to run football pretty well. They were ball hawk defense. You had the tip pass. I pick six. Coach Campbell's got those guys playing hard. And Jared Goff is a good enough quarterback to not make mistakes. And with a good running game, when you had Todd Gurley made it to the Super Bowl, they lost in a snoozer against the Patriots because Belichick figured them out. But he's matured a lot since then. So I kind of like this Lions team to make playoffs. So if the line moves much, might still be a good bet. We're here in week one. We don't want to talk about Thursday game. We're here to talk about what's coming up. So week one got a tough set of games for the beginning of the season. It's always tough to handicap first games. We have 6 home dogs, and keep in mind how tough it is to win in the NFL, and even tougher to go on the road and win. Last year just was under mania. early in the season, and Jeff and I kind of expect the same. Be careful of going over, although I will provide my free pitch as an over, and I'll explain why. Um, and then just keep in mind, the betting public is different than the Vegas books. So the smart money usually comes in later on this season or later on in the week. And it'll change the line some, but that the public is going to drive the lines. So therefore, they're going to bet up the scores because everyone thinks the NFL is going to score a lot, and that may not be early on in the season. It may be the case on, and then as normal, build your bankroll. Use like a business. Don't invest everything in one game. Don't go chasing at the end of the week if you've had a couple of losses. Take bets and be smart about it. But hey, we're going to kick off the season with 49ers traveling to Pure Stadium in Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. The Steelers are home dogs at +2. The over-under is 41.5. Quite a few questions in San Francisco this week. This is our first of 3 interconference games. First one was last night. I believe the AFC is significantly better conference right now. Tomlinson is 3-1 ATS over the past 4 years in week 1 matchups. And surprisingly, as good as the 49ers have been the last 3 years, they're only 1-3 ATS in those week 1 matchups. Is it a coaching thing? I think it's been a quarterback thing for the 49ers. If you look back over the years, they've had to, kind of figure out who's going to play at quarterback in the first game of the season. The week 1 losses generally revolved around that quarterback situation, and there might not be any difference this year, or it might be a difference with Purdy coming off an injury. Jeff, what are you looking at in this game here with the 49ers and the Steelers?
Well, I was still looking to see if Bosa is going to play since he just signed his contract so late, just a couple of days ago, but I assume he's going to be the freak athlete that he always is, and he couldn't come in and have an impact, even though he hadn't had training camp. And then I want to see what Brock Purdy looks like coming off the injury. I expect that he'll play solid, but they'll focus more on the running game, which is definitely a strength of the 49ers. So I'd still look for them to be very tough.
Okay. Let's move on. We got Panthers going on the road to Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium for a 1:00 start Eastern Standard Time. The Falcons are favored by 3.5. The over/under set at 39.5. Again, make sure you check the lines. Some of these can change, a little bit. These are the lines as of yesterday. The Falcons, interestingly, are 0-5 straight up and 0-4 ATS. So I looked at the last 5 straight up games and then the last 4 ATS games during week 1, and they were 0-5 and 0-4. They don't play well in the first game, and you got to wonder why. Is that a coaching issue? Probably so. It's probably a preparation issue. On the other side of the ball, you have Frank Wright, who took over the Panthers, and his record in week 1 when he was head coach was equally as bad during that same time frame. 0-5 and 0-4 straight up. So these coaches are not great. These organizations are not great at week 1 preparation. This will be Winston's coming out party. Expect a heavy dose of him against a good Carolina defense front 7. And then we're going to begin the Bryce Young era. So I like this game. Jeff, what do you like about it?
Well, I'm certainly interested to see Bijan, and I'm hoping that we get to see a little bit more of Kyle Pitts and expand his role this year. So Atlanta's one of those teams I like to improve from last year. I think they've got a unique offense in today's NFL that's going to focus a lot on running the ball and the tight end passing games. So defenses aren't necessarily used to that or built for that. So I think they can have decent bit of success this year.
Yeah, I agree. I like the Falcons. If they could go off and get a win here, it would be the first time in a while that they got that week 1 win. They tend to do pretty well in September the rest of the way, but they just have lost this first game. So I got to wait and see on these guys. I don't trust them yet. But I would lean toward them in this game, only because Frank Reich's on the other side and not prepped his India teams any better. So they're at home, so that makes a lot of difference, I think. Yeah, next game we got the Mayfield Tampa Bay Bucks traveling to Minnesota to take on cousin-led Vikings at US Stadium, with the Vikings by 6. It was at 7 at one point, so it's been fluctuating. The over/under 75 and a hook. The way this gets over this early season right now. Right now, however, looking back in the last 5 years, both these teams have lost in week one. The Bucks average, believe it or not, 27 points per game in week one since 2017, and the Vikings 26.6. So, this is one where, if you bet the under on the Bucks the rest of the season, you're generally good, but don't bet them under on the first game because they tend to score a lot of points. Jeff, what do you like about this game?
Well, this game is a little tricky for me because Tampa Bay definitely has a good track record in week one. Of course, a few of those years were with Brady and against the Cowboys, which were, both high scoring affairs on their side. Minnesota had an unreal season last year, winning so many one-score games. I don't think that's going to continue. But with Tampa Bay having quarterback questions, Minnesota, I think, is a solid team. I certainly see them taking care of business against Tampa.
Yeah, I see him taking care of business. I do not like that number. I don't like the 6 points, laying 6 at home. I don't like it. I'm staying away. I'll bet them straight up on our between you and me, but you're not making any money this week on this game. That's the view. Hey, next up, the new look Texans travel to Baltimore to face off against the Ravens at M&T Stadium. Baltimore's favored by 10 over the Texans. Boy, we saw a lot of that last year. And the over/under is set at 44. The Ravens are 4-1 in week one games going back to 2018, averaged an astounding 39 points over that same time span. Well, what does that mean? That means coaching staff, the organization, comes in prepared for week one games. That's what we're talking about here. Is it going to mean, like Jeff mentioned last year, a couple years, the Bucks have had Brady, so they've averaged 27 points a game. That will be different under Mayfield, but there's a difference. Mayfield is the difference, right? With the Baltimore, you've almost got yourself a better situation, right? I mean, you got better weapons on the Baltimore side, and they still were putting up 39 points in week one. Meanwhile, Houston, believe it or not, as bad as they've been, have scored 25 points a game in week one contests over that same time span, the third highest in the AFC. So, Jeff, for my first free pick of the week, take over 44 Ravens at Texans. I'll put it out on the shorts. What do you like about this game?
Well, almost everything I like about it is Baltimore, but I do like the over in this one as well. I do think Baltimore comes into week one prepared, and I think they've got better weapons. I think they're going to be explosive in week one. And if the rookie QB for Houston can handle trying to match scores with Baltimore, I would think this would go over pretty easily. But my free pick for the week is to take Baltimore with the points.
All right, you heard it here. Jeff's going Baltimore, and I'm going over your two free picks. Starting out this year. We'll get those on the shorts shortly and put them on our website. Hey, next up, the Bengals travel across the state to Cleveland Stadium as the Browns are home dogs at +2.5 against the Bengals, and the over/under is 48. In the last 4 games, both teams have struggled week one, so it's fittingly that they're facing off against each other. Burrow, I don't think Burrow's won in Cleveland Stadium, Jeff. Did you know that? And there's questions on himself. Again, just like the last couple years. What do you like about this game, Jeff?
Well, I'm still concerned about Burrow's calf, so I'm going to stay away from this game because I'm unsure of it. But yes, Cleveland has played Cincinnati extremely tough. They've definitely got some sort of a matchup advantage. So, I would probably lean towards Cleveland, although, like I said, this one's just a little up in the air with Burrow's health. So I'll probably stay away from this until I see him perform.
Okay. So this will be one that we got to make a decision on. I'm going on the Browns to win it. I'm for the straight up bet. And we'll straight up bets out after we go through the analysis. But I'm going to pick them to win this game. I think they could do it even with Burrow in town. Division home dogs it's just tough to win against those in cover for sure. Hey, next up, we got Jacksonville traveling to Lucas Oil Stadium to face off against the Colts. The Jags are favored by 5. That's moved to 5.5 at some point. The over-under is 45 and a hook. In the last 4 years, Indy is 0-4 straight up and ATS. So this will be a new coaching staff. So we'll see if they're any better at preparing their teams. But Jacksonville's been only 1-3 ATS in that same period in week 1. So not great preparation on the part of the Jags either. Both teams have about the same amount of variance over the past 5 years totals, with Indy scoring 20 points a game and the Jags 23. So Vegas has got the number right on the total. Pending a disappearing act from the Colts offense, which could happen, or any kind of, extreme offensive production by the Jags, which I doubt in week 1 will happen, but it can, I guess. Feels like the Jags are prepared to take the helm in this division, and the coaching change, rookies, quarterbacks. The Jags, they're going to be facing several rookie quarterbacks all year. So I think they get the win here. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like Jacksonville a lot this year, especially in the division, because they're going to have some fairly easy wins. And I think they're going to rise up to playoff rankings as far as the overall conference. And as far as their last few years opening weeks, I think the Urban Meyer year impacted that. And then Peterson coming in last year, not having the team fully ready with his style. So I think the last couple of years have been a little difficult to judge. I think Peterson's a good coach, so I expect him to have them ready to play. So I'm going Jacksonville heavy in this game.
And again, this goes back to, we look at week 1 analysis over the history, but we're also looking at change. So the Jags have changed out the coaching staff. So it's very likely that they're, just because, the past doesn't inform the future, as it will inform the future, it doesn't predict the future. So understand what we're saying, or understand what I'm saying here. And then look for the differences. And I think that's where you can make the money. So I agree with you. I think the Jags will be prepared for this Colts team on the road, even though they're giving up 5 points, right? That's tough to give up, but I think they're going to be okay with it. I think that the offense is going to be that good this year. Hey, next up, we got the Tennessee Titans, our third non-conference game against the New Orleans Saints at Caesars Superdome. The Saints are favored by 3, and the over-under is set at 41. This is Carr's first game. The Titans have a few injuries, but the Titans have always come in. They've always been a pretty well-prepared team. Overall, their win total in the first week is, I want to say they're 3-1, but I wanted to double check that. See, no, they're actually 2-3 straight up, and 1-3 overall. Meanwhile, New Orleans is much better in week 1. They haven't had great seasons. They've been 4-1 straight up in their last 5 games. So I think that could have an impact here. Jeff, what are you thinking for this game?
Well, I do wonder how quickly the New Orleans offense will gel, but I think playing at home week 1 is going to help, and their defense is solid. And with some of the regression in Tennessee's roster from last year, I see New Orleans being able to take this game at home.
Yeah, I think if they can stop Henry in the game and force it into Tannehill's hands with some of the injuries they've had on offense, I think it's going to be problem. If Henry gets running wild down there in New Orleans, I could see Tennessee, putting a thumping on this New Orleans team. This is a tough one to pick.
Yep.
All right, next up, the Cardinals travel to Landover, Maryland, in FedEx Field to take on Commanders. The Washington Commanders, you heard it here, are favored by 7 points at home. The over-under is set at 38. So this is one where you look at the teams and you got new quarterbacks. Of course, you got a new offensive coordinator. You got a team that might actually. There's thought that they might be tanking already, right? The Cards, right? So you think, no way. And then Vegas sets this number at 38, and you're like, no way is this thing getting over the number, right? This is going to be a slugfest. Well, now we got to go back and we got to look. So Washington has averaged 24 points, and Arizona 23.4. You got Bieniemy, who's now the new head coach. I think he's an additional 4 and 5 points at least. Washington still has the same weapons that they had last year. They weren't a bad football team. They're just in a tough division. They did well in non-conference game or non-divisional games. And so the other thing about this is that you're going to have two quarterbacks that, so when you look at a number like 38, 38's it's not hard to get over that. I mean, that's basically 24-17, and you're right there at 41 points, right? So that's right there at 38 points. So you're right there, right? That's doable, 21-17, but you can get 24-17 too. And here's the thing, Jeff, if you got young quarterbacks, they can throw interceptions that put your team in a bad position, as good as your defense might be. And now you've got 10 points off turnovers with these rookie quarterbacks or these young quarterbacks. And there's the wrap. So I kind of over on this one, Jeff. I do like Washington at home. What do you think?
Well, I'm not sure if I will end up picking Arizona at all this season because I do think they are a really bad team. And I was thinking like you on over because I was really expecting some turnovers, especially from Washington with Arizona's rookie quarterback. It lessened a little bit now that Chase Young is out. Not going to be putting quite as much pressure on the quarterback, but definitely like Washington, and I still think they'll probably make the over work.
Yeah. All right. Well, next up, we start off our clock. We got the Chargers hosting the Dolphins. The Chargers are favored by 3, and the over/under set at 51. This is another team that played well in week 1. The Chargers went 4-0 ATS straight up, while Miami has gone 3-2. So this is a really good game. Both these these organizations prepare for week 1. What stands out though is the inability in week 1 to score. So the voting public has this at 51. It may even go up. It may have come down to 50.5 because I think some sharp money came on. And the reason why is because as good as these teams are winning in week 1, they're not great at scoring. Scoring wise, I think the Dolphins are like 17 points in the last 5 years, and the Chargers are like 20. So this is one of those that I like the Chargers at home here. It's a tough one to pick. I kind of like the under on this one, believe it or not. But I'm not. This isn't my free. But I mean, I would lead toward the under here. Everyone wants to tell you that this thing's going to be a barn burner, but that's not generally been what's happened in week 1s with these two franchises. Jeff, what are your thoughts here on week 1 with Chargers Dolphins?
Well, this is another one where the coaching change with Kellen Moore could go 2 different ways. So I'm unsure. I mean, he's definitely going to change up the look of the Chargers offense. So it's not going to be as easy to prepare for them for Miami's defense. But I don't know how in sync they've gotten through training camp and preseason under his system, so it might take him a couple of weeks to ramp up. So that could stall their scoring a little bit. I do think for the year he's going to be a benefit to them, but it may not happen in week one. And a lot of my predictive analysis from last year with Miami includes Tua being out for several games. So if I try and factor that in, I think they would actually have the edge in this game. But it's very close. I'm probably staying away from this.
Yep. It's going to be a tough one to pick straight up, quite frankly, because I agree with you. I think Miami could pull it out if Tua can come back and play healthy. Hey, next up, we got at Soldier Field, we see his Green Bay Packers coming to town. The Bears are favored by 1. That hasn't happened in a while. And the Packers it's essentially a pick'em game. Over-under is 42. So Rodgers owned the Bears. He told him he owned them. But he's gone now. So the question is did Rodgers pass the Bears keys over to Jordan Love? So we're gonna find out. I don't like the fact that there's some injuries at the receiver, some nagging questionable injuries at the wide receiver position for the Packers. Both of us liked what the Bears did in offseason free agency. I feel this one gets under 42 as well. 42 seems a lot of points for this game. They have had that happen, but it seems pretty low, or seems pretty high for a game like this. As you look at both team averaged about 17 points over the last 5 years in week one, and the Packers have not been great in week one. The Bears have been okay, but again, the Bears have done enough to where I don't know that you can look back in the past too much to project on what the future is going to hold for the Bears this season. Made a lot of moves. So Jeff, where do you think? Is Love going to own the Bears? Where are you looking?
I think it is going to be a question of the quarterbacks. He could own the Bears if Justin Fields doesn't progress. But since I have Justin Fields in couple of my fantasy leagues, I'm certainly hoping he does. And I'd liked him coming out. I do think he's going to improve, and the running ability alone should be able to get them some points. With Green Bay having receiver issues right now, I would probably lean under and to Chicago in this one.
All right, we're in agreement on that one, Jeff. Next, we're traveling. The Rams we're going to Seattle with Lumen Field. The Rams are traveling for a interdivisional game. The Hawks are favored by 5.5, and the over/under is set at 46. And I tell you, there's a lot of analysts and podcasters out there picking LA for the upset. There's an upset mindset in this game. And I think that's because they don't think Geno Smith can pull off another 2022 campaign. I'm not going to bet against Geno Smith. Like the Seahawks, I think the Seahawks teams has a real shot at making the Super Bowl for the NFC this year, and so I like Seattle in this spot. I'm not what everyone else is seeing. I think Cooper Kupp's out, so that's a huge part of the play offense. I feel like that's going to be a Kelce effect, and I think even with Cooper Kupp they would lose by 5.5. So I'm not sure, Jeff. What are you thinking here with the game?
Another one we are in agreement on. I've seen a lot of talk from analysts about Seattle missing the playoffs, that they think they'll regress this year. I thought they made good additions to what they had last year, and they're going to be a very physical running team with a good defense. So I like them, and I like them taking care of a Cooper Kupp-less team. Plus, I don't know how healthy Stafford's elbow is after last year. So I like Seattle a lot in this one.
Yeah, well, this is one that I'm glad I'm going to be betting this straight up because I think the Hawks get the win. I'm not sure though. I don't know where all the analysis is on the number, so I'm definitely staying away from the number because maybe I'm missing something. I'm always open to the fact that I might be missing something with some of these bets. So if there's something weird out there, I tend to stay away because again, It's early on in the season. You know, I'm looking to make over the length of the season. I'm not making it in week one. I don't have to stretch on a bet that I don't believe in. Hey, next we got the Raiders traveling to Empower Field at Mile High, Colorado. The Broncos are 3.5 favorites against the Raiders at home. The over/under is set at 44. All time, the Broncos are 83-31-2 at home in September. 724 winning percent. That's pretty good in September. But they've not been great in week one games over the last 4 years, 2 ATS. And the Raiders have been much better going 3-1 ATS in the last 4 during week one. Judy is questionable for Denver and Carter. Raiders pretty healthy on both sides of the ball. One has to go back to December of 2019 to find the last time the Broncos got a win against the Raiders. And that's all the way, and then all the way back to 2017 to find a time where they beat the Raiders by 3 points. So this line is very interesting. Denver is at home, but Raiders have always played Denver well at home or on the road. What do you think with this one, Jeff? This is a tough one.
This is a tough one, partly because I'm a big Sean Payton fan. I do think he's a really good coach, and I think that's going to be a huge improvement for Denver from last year. I don't know if it's going to be big enough to offset like wide receiver injuries they've had. I don't know if Russell Wilson is going to bounce back after a really poor year last year, but I put a lot in Sean Payton to be able to be successful. So I'm actually going to lean towards Denver in this one.
Yeah, I like Peyton. I think that's a great point, Jeff. Also like their offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi. I think he could come in and be the hand that kind of steadies and Russell Wilson's last phase before his retirement and get him more productive. So I like this, but it's a tough one. It's a tough one to bet, and the betting public comes in because, and both Denver fans and Raiders fans love their teams, and so there's a lot of money going to be sloshing around on the game. But this is a tough one. Hey, next up we have our Sunday night game. We got the Cowboys traveling to New York MetLife Stadium to take on the Giants, and the Giants are 3.5-point home dogs. Over under set 46. Dallas has owned the series since 2016, losing only once in 2021. They're 11-1. I mean, Dak is owned. So Daniel Jones is coming off a new contract, and Barkley is a disgruntled employee. He feels underpaid and underappreciated. He's made that known. New York comes in with no significant injuries, while Dallas has Smith questionable, expected to go, but they were limited in practice, and that's pretty big deal when your offensive linemen are hurting. Dallas is only 2 ATS in the last week one games in the last 4 years, and they've been averaging about 18 points. New York was, though, going 1-3 in the last week one game, averaging a league low 16.2 points a game in week one games. Not league, NFC conference over the last 4 years. Jeff, does Dak get it done again? Do the Cowboys continue their dominance of this series, or are we looking at the Giants getting back?
I do think Dak gets it done again. He has owned most of the NFC East. Once he gets familiar with the team, he is really good. I think the offensive line made it closer for me. I was feeling very confident before that. Now I'm only fairly confident. But I think New York is going to slide back a little bit this year after a really impressive year last year, but kind of lucky. So I think they slide a little and Dallas gets this done.
Even with the 3.5?
I think Dallas's defense is really going to stifle New York. So I think it's going to be a pretty low scoring game for the Giants. So Dak doesn't have to put up too much to cover that 3.5.
Yeah, that 46 number looks high to me.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I mean, 24-21 doesn't even get you 46. And I agree with you. I don't know that the Giants can put up 21 points on the Cowboys. And with the tackles out, I'm not sure the Cowboys can put up 24 points on the Giants. And I don't think they'll have to. So, all right. Let's move on to our last game. We're going to take a look at the Monday night game. Returns on 11 September. And the Jets are hosting the Bills at MetLife Stadium, and they're getting 2 points as home dogs, and the over set at 46. Game of the week for me, Rodgers era begins in New York. It's kind of hard to look at New York's poor performance in the last 4 years when you have so much change as they have had. So I'm throwing that out. The Bills, on the other hand, have been in week one. They're 3-1 ATS in the over the last four. They dropped 31 on LA the former last year. Then they had been the Super Bowl champs the year prior. So they put 31 on the Super Bowl champs. That was impressive. The Bills are an impressive team. Who do you like here, Jeff?
Well, it is amazing how much this change has impacted my analysis, because if it were, not for all the changes, my historical analysis would say this line is off by like 10 points. So I don't know that Rodgers is worth a 10-point swing. And Buffalo does, or at least has the last couple of years, come out pretty good in week one. So I'm leaning towards Buffalo, but it is going to be interesting to see just how good that New York Jet team can be with the stout defense and a good quarterback.
Yeah, this is a tough one to pick. The other thing you got to realize, you still there with me, Jeff? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
The other thing is the addition of Dalvin Cook and the return of that running back that got hurt. What was his name? Brees
Yep.
Young. I think that's his name. He was setting the league on fire before he went down with that injury last year. And the Jets defense, as we talked about, got better, and they were pretty stout last year. I mean, I actually think the Jets defense could rival the Cowboys defense for number one in the league. And certainly I think they could be number one in the AFC. So it's a tough one to pick. So there you got it, rookies. We gave you some pretty good analysis here. We're here in Vegas. Free picks are Jeff says take the Ravens plus 10. I say take Ravens and Texans over 44. So now we're going to break down to the straight up picks. Okay. So we're going to go head to head all season long with our straight up picks. So Jeff, I don't know if you want to go first, or do you want me to go first, or we want to just go together? How do you want to play this?
We can just go game by game quickly and say who we're picking straight up.
Okay. So I had the Lions over Kansas City. I know you had the other, right?
I did have Kansas City over Detroit. Pre
we don't
injury.
We don't pick Thursday games. I was going to try to get a quick one on you.
There you go.
All right, so I'm taking Atlanta over Carolina. Jeff, where are you at?
I have Atlanta over Carolina.
Okay, I'm taking Baltimore over Houston.
I'm taking Baltimore big over Houston.
Okay, I'm taking Cleveland over Cincinnati.
I am taking Cincinnati, even though I do agree this one's a close one.
Okay, so our first
difference.
First difference, and I've actually moved off of that. Was on Cincinnati, but I am sticking with my pick straight up over Cleveland over Cincinnati. I'm taking Jacksonville over Indy.
Jacksonville big over Indy for me.
I'm taking Minnesota over Tampa Bay.
Definitely Minnesota over a bad Tampa Bay team.
I'm taking New Orleans over Tennessee.
I'm taking New Orleans as well.
I think this is going to be different. I'm taking Pittsburgh over San Francisco.
I am taking San Francisco. That is a difference.
So two so far differences, Cleveland and San Francisco. I'm taking Washington over Arizona.
I'm taking anybody against Arizona all year, so yeah, Washington.
I'm to Green Bay over Chicago.
This one was a close one for me. I was going Green Bay early on, but I have switched to Chicago and I'm sticking with that one.
All right, so we got three different. We didn't actually break down this game. I don't know why, but I missed it. I apologize. And we can talk about it. But I'm taking Philadelphia over New England, straight up, not points wise.
So I just noticed that we missed that one as well. So while I think the loser of the Super Bowl has a typical week one hangover, I think they are just so much more talented roster wise than New England and with a better quarterback. So I'm taking Philadelphia as well.
I'm taking Denver over Las Vegas.
And I am taking Denver over Las Vegas.
I'm taking the Chargers over the Dolphins.
I'm taking the Chargers over the Dolphins.
Seattle over Los Angeles.
Seattle for me.
Dallas over New York.
Dallas for me as well.
And as much as I hate to go against Rodgers because I like this team, I have to take Buffalo over New York.
Another very close one for me with the additions, but yes, I'm going Buffalo as well.
All right, rookies. So we'll put those out on the shorts. We'll get them out on our picks as well for you guys. But you have them here first, and we'll be tracking these every week. We'll be throwing up the stats on how we do straight up. And I guess we got a steak. I don't know, steak dinner, a bottle of tequila on this, Jeff. I'm not sure.
I'd take either. So yeah, we can figure out the right bet.
All right. Well, that's all we got for you today, rookies. We got some work to do here in Vegas. Hope you enjoyed this first podcast. We'll be here all season. We've been doing this for a long time. We just started last year doing it with you all, but we've been analyzing football, Jeff and I, going back for years, and we're happy to be back for this season. Jeff, what are your parting words?
Well, just to keep on the lookout for our shorts that we'll be putting out today. Got a couple of interesting tidbits to try and direct some traffic to us. So a couple of games that I think are good bets.
All right. Well, thank y'all. Have a good day. Good luck this week.